Harry, for that rendition of Sketchbook. You and your band are the bomb. Welcome, everybody, to the Hugs Not Drugs podcast. I'm your host, John Barleycorn. And what is this podcast about? So the Hugs Not Drugs podcast can help motivated people in recovery from mood-altering addictions get additional skills for their personal health by enjoying inspirational stories. And we have one today with a man I truly respect, Sam. And also, he's going to give educational information, and dare I say, we're going to be entertaining to you too. That's what's provided in the Hugs Not Drugs podcast. So I have two other characters here, as you may know if you've been watching this Hugs Not Drugs podcast, and they are the Hugs Not Drugs, which is a spiritual entity, and say hello, Hugs Not Drugs. You know, I'm saying hello right now, and I have the same voice as you, John Barleycorn, even though that sounds ridiculous. I have the same voice. But here, we're ladies and gentlemen, here is, with no further ado, Dr. Uggs, the comic relief of this show.
Yeah. My name is Dr. Uggs, and I'm here to try to get everybody on the show to drink and drug again. And I'll take over, and it'll be called the Dr. Uggs Show. And it'll be great that way.
Believe me, that's not going to happen, guys. We got a daily reprieve based on a spiritual condition, and we're using it. But we also give Dr. Uggs the hope that will happen so that he will do the commercials. So do the commercials, Dr. Uggs.
Okay, here they go. This program, this podcast, the Hugs Not Drug podcast, is really sponsored by John Forlenza-Bailey. He's a prince, by the way. And he wrote 2 books, and he's trying to sell these books to the public because he thinks they're worth something. I don't know if they are or not, but the Road to Wellness workbook is designed to provide education, emotional support, and an inspiration to persons suffering from addiction. It offers step-by-step lessons to people striving to turn their lives around regarding abstinence, relapse prevention, family dynamics, and self-assessment to continue to discover self day by day. Recovery's up to you. Mentors help. Journals help. You must exchange and surrender destructive behaviors for constructive ways of handling day-to-day stressors or triggers of life. No one deserves to continue to suffer from active addiction. Get better, do the work. So you can do that with a friend. Buy it on Amazon. Do it with a friend. Do the exercises in the back, and also do the daily journal and process it with somebody. Come out of hiding. Let people know who you are. So that's for 30 days, and that's a good start. Hugs Not Drugs says he's got 46 years. That's only a good start. It's on daily reprieve based on a spiritual condition. Which brings us to the second book that John Forlenza-Bailey wrote, The Transformation of Dr. Uggs. That is an original fairy tale that explains the progression of the disease of chemical dependency. It's not intended to be a story about blaming others for the acquisition of an illness. This fairy tale is intended to explain, not to blame. It is a story of discovery, insight, acceptance, and finally the right choices to live drug-free if one is chemically dependent. Without further ado, I am out. And go for it, Barleycorn. Introduce your friend. He's my friend, too. I think he is an amazing man.
Well, thank you very much, because that's how I feel about Sam also. Sam is a friend of mine for many years. I can't even remember how many. How many is it, Sam?
10 going on 11. And I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Uggs. Nominally a supporter of addiction, and secretly I think he's a champion of recovery.
Don't ever say that again, Sam. You're blowing my cover.
All right. Welcome back to the Hugs Not Drugs podcast, where we talk about recovery, connection, and the courage to take the courage it takes to live a better life. Today, I am this barleycorn here. I'm really honored to be joined by my friend Sam. Sam is someone I respect deeply, not because life has been easy for him, but because he kept showing up even when it wasn't. Sam, thank you for being here. How are you feeling about coming on today?
Thank you, and hopefully the internet is going to be stable enough that we can have a smooth ride, and if it's not, then we'll re-record it. It's a pleasure to be here. You were a big part of my early recovery. You were an inspiration. I think it was important whenever somebody like myself has dealt with, issues of mental illness or depression or anxiety. That was an unanticipated benefit of getting sober in AA was a lot of my mental issues disappeared. That I could model people who had successfully gotten sober, that there was a stability that I gained in AA that I did not have in my personal life. So one of the things that I really want to talk about, and I don't want it to turn into an AA speaker meeting, and rather it was a dialogue of, what that is like to get sober. I got sober at 51 in the year 2015. It was a freezing, horrible winter in West Hartford with giant, it felt like a fortress. There was giant ice packed on the side of the street. I felt like the world was closing in on me. And I honestly thought, I'm going to die of my alcoholism and nobody's ever going to find me. I'm going to be trapped in my frozen house with nobody alerted. And it was a February 6th, a Saturday at 7:30 when I drove into Fern Street parking lot and went to my very first AA meeting and met my sponsor, still my sponsor, on that day. That was the beginning of transformation. And one of the things that most impressed me was wow, people are calm. We used to go out to breakfast after the Saturday meeting, and that was a lot of fun. And it was fun for me to be with people who were sober, and the people weren't necessarily, it was a great amount of sobriety for most of us, 1 year, 2 year, 3 years, but it was enough, and it was enough to be accepted, and it was enough to learn the ropes, and it was enough to make me concerned about other people's lives. And I think that another thing that I really reflect on, AA allowed me to be caring for other people. That was the very first time I think I really became interested in others as opposed to just a narrative of self, which is so easy to get lost in. My problems, my anxiety, the world, my reaction, my feelings, my terrors, and it really allowed me to see people as being very real and this very common struggle of addiction.
May I butt in and converse for a minute?
Yes.
Is it safe to say you found like people? Is it safe?
Yes.
And is it safe to say that you allowed yourself to let your guard down because we were so open and caring for you? Is it safe to say that you could identify with who you were speaking with? It was like people. You heard us, you believed us, you trusted us, you were desperate enough to.
I had never found anybody who drank the way I drank. This was the very first time I met people. My fantasy was that everybody was happy in West Hartford. Everybody was, having a drink or two with their family or having a beer at the bar, and I was stuck being miserable with my vodka. When in reality, I met rooms full of people who drank the way I drank, and who drank, self-destructively, or who drank to try to make reality go away, which is kind of the reason that I drank.
I want to just share my first impression of you. I saw someone that was tremendously brave to do what he was doing, to check us out. And I've always been impressed with your courage. And it may not seem like courage to you, I don't know. But I'll tell you, you had what I can identify with, the gift of desperation. You wanted something different. And I was just so pleased that you were being courageous enough to follow some good orderly direction, and we had a wonderful time. You're a wonderful person.
I'd never been sober before in my life, so this was the very first time. So I was desperately hungry for it. The way kind of a starving man. There's it's the big book image of the prospector who's gaunt and has lost all of his weight and the sort of the last strike, and he's hit gold and he wants to spread the word. So it was very similar to that. Like, it was at the end of my rope. I had no idea what AA was going to be like, what it was like. But it was really AA or death, and that choice was very clear to me. Like, it was a hyperbole that was very obvious. Like, if I didn't find this, I was going to die. And I've always said AA is a lot better than death. Like, AA is much, much better. And AA, as Hugs Not Drugs, I think, has pointed out, when we talk that AA is a spiritual program, I think we have to be aware of what that means. That can be a hard statement for people because they interpret that to mean religious. Whereas in reality, something in us that was turned off turns on, which is probably the best way of putting it. Or the spiritual light that's present in everybody, which is massively tamped down or turned off with drugs and alcohol, gets relit. And it can, that tiny little pilot light can turn into a massive flame. And that was my experience in AA, particularly because I had started a full-time meditation practice at the same time that I got sober. So it very much felt like I was unleashing kind of a torrent that had been trapped inside myself. Because I wasn't able to sit still. If you can't sit still, you can't meditate.
Your meditations are really spot on. You've helped so many people. I hope you realize that you help so many people with your expertise in meditation. You've been doing a retreat, and you've been leading us in meditation for a few years now. And,
probably 8 or 9 years, yeah.
And it's been very, very helpful to the group. And
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to do more of that. That's to your earlier point. It's very hard for us to see ourselves. It's helpful to have the good parts of ourselves highlit by other people.
Mm-hmm.
So when we get mirrored by somebody, because it's very easy to wallow in self-pity or all the things that aren't working in our lives, it's a delight when we can bring kind of the best of ourselves and show that to others. That always feels very wonderful. And it's, again, another gift of the program is for our light to help light other people's lights.
Yeah, you're quite the teacher too, because you've done this a Zoom meeting where we do have a meditation for 10 minutes, and you do a meditation of St. Francis prayer, and your deliberation, your presentation of it, your elocution, am I saying that correctly, is so precise and calming and loving. That other people have emulated that, and they've slowed down their prayer meditation when they present it too.
I think one of the gifts of AA is that prayer, and St. Francis prayer is a remarkable prayer. And we go to a meditation center that's has a lot of relics of St. Francis and the altar from Assisi, so it's a very Franciscan kind of a feeling, and the essence of that prayer is a kind of a turnaround. It's self-forgetting, it's focused on others, it's instead of wondering what we can get from others, we focus on what we can give to them. So that prayer itself is like such a powerhouse, and it has to be kind of delivered and meditated on very slowly, and so I think it's an important part of the whole AA tradition, that prayer, but we tend to race through it, and we really have to linger and stop because of what it has to say is so, I think, crucial for us to change our consciousness.
However you have interpreted it, it has been amazingly effective. And I just wanted to throw that. I want to also just go back. Now you got into recovery, you jumped in with both feet, you started doing the meditation, but you also, when did the obsession to stop drinking start for you? Because that's what happens in recovery. When did your
when did it start or when did it stop?
When did your obsession stop? Do you have any recollection of that?
It was funny because I still had it when I came in, meaning that my thoughts would go to alcohol when I would see a liquor store, there's always a further.
Yeah, there's trauma.
It's just like, this is the first time I'm going to a restaurant. This is the first time I'm driving by the liquor store I always went to and I'm not stopping. This is the this is the first time somebody's offering a drink and I'm saying no.
Yeah.
So there are all of these touch points, and I don't remember that it was easy. I think it was a constant focus, a lot of prayer, a lot of the Serenity Prayer, a lot of work with my sponsor. There were some very close calls in early sobriety. Mm-hmm. I think we just have to be aware of that. Like, early sobriety is rather fragile, and so we have to treat it with the respect it really deserves, because it's hard, and it's a hard road. And we tend to think about the future and what if, but it's really about how do I handle. It was more tactical, actually, early on. It was less, how do I manage this emotion, which I think is a thing I struggle with now, and more about, what do I do when? Mm-hmm. There are no seats in the restaurant. They're seating us at the bar. What should I do? I'm out with people and they're drinking. What should I do? How to say no to things. One of the early realizations is, I can go to this event and not drink. Like, nobody's going to notice. It's the whoopee party definition of the big book. Like, is this a drinking event? If the answer is yes, I don't need to attend it. Or if it's a company presentation that goes for an hour and then there's 3 hours of drinking, just attend the company presentation. It seemed to be a revelation at the time. Like, oh my God, I can go out and be with others and not drink. And you also, I think one of the things is, and I didn't realize it, but how much of social events are drinking. How much of life, marriages, birthdays, holidays are drinking.
Yeah, you were a solitary drinker, and
it's just a big part of it, and to not.
Yeah, but during the course of this interdependency that you've discovered in your life, you realize that people in your life is a very, very healthy thing. You fell in love, and you've been married for quite a while now.
Yes.
You want to talk about that?
I met my wife, literally 1 year after I got sober, so I tried to follow the rules. But yes, it was, and again, my first sober relationship, which is a very big deal. A person who's never seen me drunk, which is a big deal. A person who worries about me, and if she sees I'm upset, she encourages me to go to meetings. And she's a non-drinker, which is also crucially important. I'm literally not sure I could be involved with somebody who drinks. I think it would cause a lot of inner tension. And that's another gift. I mean, the program, sobriety is a series of endless gifts. And so I never want to take it for granted, and I never want to jeopardize it by any kind of a relapse. And in terms of my drinking, I've never fantasized about a drink. That doesn't interest me. If I was going to relapse, it would be, moving into the liquor store and putting in a bed and a television and getting DoorDash delivered and never coming out, because that's the way that I drank. I mean, I would not want to move. I would not want to do anything. I would want a giant sofa and a bed, and I would want to be drunk 24/7.
And thinking of that is a great deterrent, because if you look at who you are now as opposed to when you were drinking, that is a real deterrent to ever pick up the first drink. Who are you now?
That's a good question. Does ChatGPT want to know, or does John Barley want to know?
We all want to know.
That's right, Dr. Rose. That's a good question. I think who I am now, as opposed to, I'd even do who I am now as opposed to the person who got sober. I think say that I'm truly living my life on my own terms, doing what I want to do in terms of being an author, learning about book marketing, doing the meditation I want, being free, networking with a whole new group of people.
You're also a poet, an
yes,
artist.
Poet,
Yeah.
an author, yep, absolutely. A husband, a sober person, a sponsor, a sponsee, a meditator. So I think that I think we both have that as part of our story when we were younger, being very suicidal and wanting to die, really to make the pain go away.
Right.
And now, obviously, as you get older, you want to live. You want more life. You want more days. You want more years.
Yeah, I wake up now and go, thank you.
But I also feel very, one of the things that I'm very focused on is we're in a mental health crisis in the country already with a lot of factors: heavy-duty addiction, alcoholism, a lack of meaning, unemployment, virtual reality, artificial intelligence. People are just getting more and more disconnected. So we have we have crisis upon crisis upon crisis. And so the more I think we can expose recovery to the masses, the more helpful it's going to be.
Yes, this connection, this...
if people can find belonging, if people can find meaning, if people can find a spiritual purpose.
Yeah. These 12-step ideology for the last 90 years has been, just as important as any discovery in the last maybe 2,000 years or so, 5,000 years of civilization, 10,000 years of civilization. It's right up there with corn. Stop it, Jack.
I think that I think so. I think since we first had distilled alcohol, which is actually fairly recent in terms of civilization. Before that, it was wine and beer. But I think you can see, just huge amounts of deaths. If you look at the opioid crisis, and the number of deaths, even like prescription pills and death. We're a very addicted culture, and it's very hard for us to get unaddicted. So any help that can be offered is, I think, going to be crucial. So I think I would frame it as more than the 12 steps, but the spiritual process of getting unaddicted, I think even the Buddha pointed that out, is like one of the most important things that you can do.
What is give us a brief definition of your idea of spirituality, because I'll give you mine if you want it first. Or
wow, that's a really good question. I would say that this is a universe that has meaning. There's a presence here. The earth has a purpose. Life has a purpose. Reincarnation does exist. We do come in. We come in with a mission, I think, that we have to accomplish in Sanskrit terms of dharma. We kind of frame out in our sections what we want our lifetime to be out. So I do think that the earth is in some ways a training ground for developing consciousness, and not just human beings, but all living things. And so spirituality is an awareness of that, the livingness and beingness of the world and all life, and something much larger than ourselves, something that we are a part of, that we're infused by, and something that we're in, a gigantic being and process of, a very, very large-scale evolution on all senses, a learning and growth and kind of overcoming limits. That's another big thing, I think, of the earthly incarnation.
Overcoming limits. I love that.
What's your definition?
Well, I can, me, this is John Barleycorn, I could complicate spaghetti. I mean, where I track what you were saying, I could not articulate that. My idea of spirituality is a 4-letter word from that 12-letter word spirituality, meaning love. But I think love and forgiveness is the answer to all my questions. I just am too human frail to have love and forgiveness all the time. But if I connect with other people, I can get there. So that's my idea of it. Just Love is the answer, whatever the question, is basically where I'm coming from. And I have to keep it simple because, like I said, I could complicate anything. So
what does Hugs Not Drugs say about this?
Hugs Not Drugs is in my camp on this one. Love and forgiveness is the answer. Just knowing both sides of the street and choosing to do the right thing is spirituality in its essence. I know how to get over on people. I think you do too, and we choose not to. And I think that's spiritual. That's the concept of love. And if I do get over on people, and if I do have my selfish, I'm setting myself up for a drink. I mean, so I want to be the first three steps of the principles of recovery. How? HOW, honest, open, and willing. And so, I usually work with the severe cases of alcoholism. I let that other people have the middle stage people of recovery. Somebody talking to themselves and spilling coffee on themselves. I'm in the background looking and thinking, gee, I hope he asked me for my telephone number.
Right, absolutely.
Because that's who I was, and I can identify with that, and I'm impressed with anybody that goes through that threshold.
Yes, that comes back to the other side. Because it's very, very rare that roaches who check into that roach motel get out of the roach motel.
Yeah, when I got here, Sam, it was like 1% when I worked in treatment. 1% were in recovery that needed it. And now it's like about 11% because we have so many other modalities in 12-step. So there's all kinds of 11% of the people that need it. So we have so much more work to do, but we're moving in the right direction in spite of all the modern conveniences that we have. People can get desperate. They can reach a tipping point where they say enough's enough. I want help, and then they ask for help and follow directions, which is basically that's all we have to do. But if you're egomaniac with an inferiority complex, it's like hard to do. I'm talking too much. I don't want to talk too much.
No. I definitely appreciate that. But let's talk about what the reason I'm focusing on early sobriety is because it is almost like this tender shoot that's coming up that if you don't manage it well, the tree dies. It never gets past the early stages. And there are just a whole host of reasons I think people can bounce in or bounce out, or it's not that bad, or it was just once. So I'm always fascinated by the people who are success stories because it's not, there's totally an element of grace and opening and kind of divine intervention. But there's also, how do I put it? It's like you've joined a mysterious current that's carrying you forwards. And as long as you can stay in the mysterious current without climbing out to the bank, you're safe, you're protected.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you talk about the obsession. Yeah, my obsession to drink, I think it probably took a while to lift, but then it was lifted. I mean, it's not, I still want to change the way I feel, or I still dream of obliterating reality, but it's not the same thing as driving to the liquor store and uncorking the bottle or unscrewing it and starting to drink. There's none of that. There's never been that. I don't, like I said, I'm not fantasizing about let me have a beer, because that was never the way that I drank. So let's talk about that. I do like, there's something wonderful about early sobriety. There's a vulnerability, there's an openness, there's a grace. The pink cloud is wonderful. There's listening to others. There's taking direction. People are just so ready that it becomes a wonderful thing to watch.
Can you talk about your retreat, your first retreat, how much recovery you had, and the fact that they asked you to share your story at your very first retreat? I think it's a wonderful story.
Yeah, so it's funny because that was early on. That would have been the first year I was sober, which was 2015. 14, so I don't think, let's see, March, probably 9. I probably was sober for 9 months. And I like that kind of 9-month mark because that felt really good. And when people have 9 months of sobriety, it feels solid.
If it was good enough for your mother, it was good enough for you.
That's right. You've now delivered a sober being, which is interesting. I think, that's a solid, that means people have been doing work for 9 months, which is solid. They're serious. And then you could taste a year, or you could taste 2, whatever. Because when you're sober for a month, those are very big numbers to see. When somebody's sober 20 years, you can't really identify with them. But when somebody's sober 9 months, that's a big deal. Yeah, it feels good to share your story. I mean, no matter what's happening, that really feels good.
Did you feel connected? Because I felt that you were comfortable and you knew you were among it was basically magical as far as I was concerned, that I had seen a transition happening in those 9 months, and then one of the toppers were for you to go to that retreat and then jump into it with both feet and then get the opportunity to share your story. And then after that, you continually worked in that retreat in some capacity to make it a success that it is. Now, it's a Matt Talbot retreat, and Matt Talbot has his own story.
And it was what's nice about Matt Talbot, I think, is you're meeting people from different parts of the state and other states. It was bigger than, I went to a lot of AA events and conferences in my first year, and that exposed me to the world of AA that's bigger than just the group. Because the group, you see the same people, you may hear the same story, but you really aren't exposed to a much, much wider kind of group. And with Matt Talbot, I really was. And it was a bit intimidating at first. Everybody knew each other. They'd been coming for years. It was a lovely retreat center that we used to go to. But it was fun. And I remember it was I was anxious, a new group of people, but it felt wonderful to share. And I have to say, it always is wonderful to share my story. You always feel a sense of relief and acceptance. You certainly.
And I'm just going to
don't feel when you're drinking. To be loved and accepted, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah. You were. I mean, people were rooting for you in the story. I could feel it. It was just amazing.
And I like life or death stories. Those are the type of AA stories that I respond to, because that was the type of drinker I was. And so I do like the kind of snatched from the jaws of death story. That's so important.
You and I like the drama, don't we? We're drama kings.
Yeah. And it's sort of I like people who are drinking themselves to death, because that was the way that I drank. And so those are the people I can help. And that's really important. And those are the people I identify with.
Those were the days. Those were the
good old days.
Well, you got a Dr. Uggs too.
So, but again, to see people's transformation is remarkable, and that's why. And it reminds me of just what it is. During the last phase of my drinking, it was the centenary of the First World War, the start of the First World War, 1914. And that's the way I felt. I was watching documentaries about being trapped in the trenches. You had machine gun fire, you had bombs, you had rats gnawing your legs. You knew you were going to die. You knew this was the last stage, and this was not going to be a noble, glorious death, but a horrific, awful, rotting in the mud death. And it's exactly the way I felt. That's the way alcoholism felt to me. That I was in the trenches in the First World War, and I was going to die.
Yeah. I'm looking at the clock. We're going to cut out about 7 minutes here, so we've gone about at least 30 minutes. Is there something that you haven't said that you really think needs to be told right now? Is there something that we've missed entirely that is something that would explain who you are and what your message in life is, what your purpose is.
Wow,
And stuff.
those are such great questions. I think honestly now, at this point in my life, my message is to try to help other people, is to try to inform, protect, save them from disaster, just like I was saved from disaster by AA. And so I mean that both in recovery terms, but in sort of the broader trends happening in the world. I do feel that's my mission, is to try to help people, while still in traditional terms, giving up the fruits of the action, like the Bhagavad Gita. Focus on the action, focus on helping, give up expectation, as we would say in AA. Give up having it being the director, like the big book.
Yeah, we're not in charge. We're not in charge, and I think I think you know that, and I like to think I know that too. That I am not in charge. This is like, it's okay to make mistakes because we're not mistakes. We just make them.
Yes, exactly. Well, it was an incredible pleasure to be here talking with you. I'd love to do it again.
Oh, yeah.
We have some other topics to discuss. And it was a joy, and it's a pleasure, and it's a reminder of just the beauty of recovery and the relationships we can make, and what we can achieve together.
Well, this was like I said before, this was a real joy for me to do this because of who you are. We had gone to the retreat before Thanksgiving, and I said I wanted you to do that. And out of the blue today, you said, let's do it. And I said, okay. And then I said, how about at 3:00 or something? And you said, okay. I mean, so that's recovery as far as I'm concerned. Not
totally
poo-pooing things and just, if it sounds like the next right thing, why not do it?
Yes, just do it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I was going to sum up, but I don't think I have to. I think we've talked about what it was like, what happened, and what it was like now. We didn't do it in sequential order sometimes, but who cares? And this is a podcast for inspiration. And if anybody with a problem with substance abuse hasn't been inspired by this, please listen to it again, because if you and I if John Barleycorn and Sam can do it, you can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it. All right. I appreciate you so much. I'm going to let everybody understand that you can listen to the podcast over and over again if you like. It's free. You can subscribe. Tell your friends if this has any importance to you, or if you think that somebody else, just mention it to them so that they may get the inspiration and education that it provides. And I hope you had a couple of laughs too. So Harry's going to take us out. His outro music, sketchbook, is always pleasant to hear. So everybody, love somebody, and thank you very much.